so I have to talk about this. I'm watching Farscape for the very first time, right? And I just finished the first two episodes of season 2, and I am kind of concerned what they're doing with Captain bialar Crais. For a whole season, he was the bad guy, the relentless, obsessive face of the Peacekeepers. He was a villain that I absolutely loved to hate. And he was stern, grumpy, and had the face of a slapped bantha, and was both hot and pig-headed. This guy didn't care about casualties. He sure as hell didn't care about regulations. He cared for his honor, his power, and getting that sweet, sweet revenge. And then, in the span of 90 minutes of television, he was broken, lost, and shoved onto a path that will apparently change him forever. It was action-packed, it was emotional, and, well, it felt kind of like the potential for a train wreck for his character. The turn was so sharp, it's a miracle he didn't even get whiplash, threatening to shatter everything that made him such a great bad guy. So today, I'm processing what I just saw. I'm trying to figure out if this controversial character shift was a brilliant, tragic masterstroke or a massive writing fumble. We're going to break down the chaos of the Mind Baby and the fractured fallout in The Way We Weren't. Those are the names of episodes 1 and 2 of season 2. And we're trying to understand how Farscape took its main villain and turned him into something else entirely. Was it genius or a narrative catastrophe? Before we can even talk about how they might have ruined bialar Crais, I really do have to give a round of applause to the writers. And the reason why is what they built in season 1. As a new viewer, I saw how Farscape right from the jump set up a classic sci-fi formula and then immediately started scribbling all over it with crayon. Our hero John Crichton gets flung across the galaxy and lands on a living ship full of escaped prisoners. And you know the deal. Every bunch of fugitives need a determined lawman chasing them. Enter Captain Crais. But Crais was never just some generic villain twirling his mustache. His motivation was personal, and that's what made him such a scary bad guy. Crichton's ship, which he could barely fly by the way, popped out of a wormhole. It accidentally smashed into a Peacekeeper prowler. The pilot on this prowler, Tavo Crais, bialar's little brother. From that moment on, the hunt was on. This wasn't about enforcing the law. This was a good old-fashioned blood feud. Crais' chase after Moya and her crew wasn't just professional, it was an obsession. He ignored direct orders to stop, and even murdered his own first officer. And he did all this to cover his tracks. This tunnel vision made him a terrifying force of nature. He wasn't just a commander. He was a man drowning in grief and rage. And he was using a command carrier like it was his own personal therapy tool. Throughout season 1, Crais really was the storm cloud that kind of kept chasing Moya's crew all across the universe. He was the face of the big, scary peacekeeper regime that Aaron had abandoned, D'Argo and Rigel had escaped. He was the threat that forced this band of misfits to become family in the first place. Their lives were basically one long reaction to whatever he was doing at that time. He was the engine driving the whole season. We saw just how far he'd go in episodes like That Old Black Magic, where he put his own personal vendetta on full display for everybody to see. This wasn't just some admiral playing space chess. He was right there, ready to get his hands dirty. His villainy was so effective because it was just so simple. He wanted one thing, John Crichton's head on a platter. This clear, unwavering goal gave the first season a powerful drive and some serious stakes. Every move the crew made had to be measured against the risk of Crais showing up on the video screen looking furious. And then the season finale changes everything. Scorpius shows up out of nowhere and is poised to take his place as one of sci-fi's greatest antagonists. This half-Scaran, half-Sebastian dude in a leather gimp suit strolls out onto Crais' command carrier with his own to-do list. He didn't want Crichton dead, he wanted the wormhole knowledge that was rattling around in Crichton's brain. Suddenly, Crais is outplayed on his own ship, right? Scorpius, with his quiet menace, his creepy calm voice, and his horrifying Aurora chair, made Crais' hot-headed anger just look kind of childish. Scorpius actually declared Crais as unfit for duty, and let's admit it, he was kind of accurate. In a stunning power move, Scorpius yoinked his command, leaving Crais a captain without a ship. The guy who was the apex predator of the uncharted territories was now a prisoner? Humiliated, broken. He ended up as an unlikely and totally untrustworthy guest on Moya. The perfect villain was now gone, and a man who had lost everything was in his place. The real question is, what comes next? So, the Season 2 premiere, Mind the Baby, it doesn't wade back into the story. It shoves you off the high dive into the deep end. As a first-time viewer, it almost felt like a brand new show, resetting the whole game with a new, scarier villain in Scorpius. Crichton, Aaron, and Argo are stuck on an asteroid field, right? Moya's given birth to a cranky, heavily armed baby warship named Talon. And Crais is locked in a cell on Moya. The episode slams its foot on the gas and doesn't let up, a choice that I found pretty jarring, to be quite honest. You're not quite sure how much time has passed, leaving you feeling just as confused as the characters are. This high-speed chaos is the fire where Crais' character gets reforged. We first see him in a cell, having a loaded chat with Crichton. Crichton is doing his Crichton thing, making pop culture jokes about the situation. But Crais, he's very different. His rage is gone, replaced by a cold, practical desperation. He's a survivor. He asks John, "You do believe that people can change, don't you?" It's a line that just kind of hangs there, both a desperate plea and a subtle threat. The catalyst for all this is Talon. The baby ship is a powerhouse, born into a war zone and understandably confused. He's a kid, but a kid with enough firepower to basically redecorate an asteroid field. When Talon breaks free and runs off, Aaron, who's taken on a godmother role, is desperate to get him back. She knows only a peacekeeper could possibly control this hybrid tech. So, she makes a deal with the devil. She secretly starts working with Crais, teaching him how to control Talon, which really isn't a good idea, in exchange for keeping her friends safe. It's a messy, morally gray choice that just shows how high the stakes actually are. This is where the show takes us to take a huge leap of faith. Crais, the man who spent a year trying to murder them all, is now their only hope. What follows is a wild ride. Crais flying Talon plays a tense game of cat and mouse with Scorpius' massive command carrier, dodging through all the asteroid fields with a skill that even Aaron has to respect. Talon, under Crais' command, becomes an extension of his will, a weapon for his new desperate purpose. But it's the hand of friendship scene that really pushes it. After the crew is safe on Moya, Talon, now fiercely loyal to the only commander he's ever actually known, demands they give Crais back. He even fires on his own mother to make the point. The crew has no choice at this point. They send Crais over to Talon, where the young ship extends a neural transponder, offering a permanent kind of symbiotic link. Aaron can only watch in horror as the man she hates so much bonds with the child that she loves the most. This moment is the heart of my concern. For me, this pivot from season-long villain to the chosen captain of a new super ship just felt way too fast, and honestly, it feels completely unearned. So this is the main complaint that I'm wrestling with, right? Because I'm wondering, did the show trade long-term character development for a quick plot fix? Was Crais' entire grief-fueled backstory just thrown out the window to give him and Talon a spin-off adventure? For a whole season, his whole identity was, "I hate John Crichton." Now, in a few hours, he has a new ship, a new purpose, and it feels less like an evolution, more like a personality transplant. He goes from being obsessed with the past to being focused on a new future in the blink of an eye. The writers basically said, forget the old Crais, this is the new and improved Crais. And as a new fan, that feels like it went a step too far. However, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. This isn't just a story about a villain suddenly becoming a good guy. It's about a broken man that's trying to find a reason not to die. And that's kind of understandable. The defense is that Crais' transformation didn't actually start in this episode. It started the second Scorpius took his command. His whole avenge my brother quest had turned him into a mess, and by the time that he was a prisoner on Moya, he'd already lost his rank, his ship, and his mission, and he even lost his honor. He was a blank slate, a Ronin without a master. From this angle, Talon wasn't just an escape plan, he was a lifeline. It was a chance to add a new identity. Talon himself is an outcast, a hybrid of two worlds who belongs to neither, just like Crais. Crais wasn't born a peacekeeper. He was forcibly conscripted as a farm boy. He spent his whole life trying to prove himself in a system that just kind of threw him away. In Talon, maybe he sees a reflection of himself and a path to a new kind of power and freedom. Their bond isn't about friendship, it's about mutual need. Talon is a confused, powerful kid who needs a guide. Crais is a disgraced commander who needs a purpose and a really big gun. Their connection is symbiotic, not sentimental, so maybe this crazy fast arc isn't a writing mistake at all. It's an efficient way to show a desperate man grabbing the only lifeline that he can find. He doesn't become a hero, he just swaps one obsession for another. He's saving himself. The speed of the change might not be a flaw, it might be a feature reflecting his desperation. It's messy, chaotic, morally gray rebirth, which is basically the Farscape brand, if I'm to be honest. After the non-stop chaos of Mind the Baby, the next episode, The Way We Weren't, which I love that name by the way, slams on the brakes. Hard. Crais and Talon have blasted off to God knows where, and the Moya and her crew is left to clean up the mess. At first, I thought that this was a jarring slowdown, or a filler episode if you were, full of flashbacks, but if you dismiss it as filler though, honestly, you're kind of missing the point. Well, Crais is physically gone. His ghost is everywhere. He's the voice on the comms, the guy who kidnapped their kid, the reason everyone is so stressed out. His actions have totally changed the dynamic on Moya. The episode plot kicks off when Chiana finds an old recording showing that a younger Aaron was part of the Peacekeeper team that captured and vivisected Moya's original pilot. This is a gut punch of a revolution, driving a wedge between Pilot and Aaron and forcing everyone to remember that what a peacekeeper actually really is. And this is why Crais' new role is so important. This episode actually explores Aaron's past, showing her relationship with another peacekeeper, Valorek, who tried to convince her that she could be more than just a soldier. We find out that she betrayed him for her career, a choice that has actually haunted her ever since. Crucially, we also learn that Aaron named Talon after her own father, a secret she had shared with Valorek. This makes Crais' hijacking of Talon not just a tactical problem, but a deeply personal violation. He didn't just steal a ship, he stole a piece of Aaron's past, a name full of regret and lost love. The flashbacks are there to show us just how much these characters have changed. We see old Aaron, a cold, ambitious soldier who did terrible things because it was her job. By seeing who she was, we understand who she has become. This perfectly mirrors the journey Chase is actually starting. The Way We Weren't is actually a masterclass in showing us that people can change, but the past is always there, that leaving a scar. Aaron's growth didn't happen overnight. It was this slow, painful process. This actually feels like the perfect counter-argument to my comments earlier about Crais' speedy transformation. The show isn't by any means saying that Crais is a good guy now. Hell no. The Way We Weren't reminds us that redemption, if it actually ever comes, is a long and brutal road. Aaron is living proof. By showing us the depth of her past sins, the show seems to be telling us to be patient with Crais. His change wasn't the end of his story. It was the violent, shocking start. He hasn't been redeemed, he's just been pointed in a new direction. My guess is his core personality, selfish, arrogant ruthlessness, it's all still there, it's just being repurposed. And the episode isn't a slowdown either. It's a much needed moment of reflection that gives us weight and consequence to the premiere's explosive events. It makes sure Crais' dramatic turn isn't just a plot twist, but the beginning of a long, complicated, uncertain journey. So now I'm trying to figure out the why here. Was this a brilliant move or a massive fumble? The answer, like everything in Farscape so far, is, well, it's complicated. But looking into it, I have a theory that changing Crais so drastically wasn't just a good idea, it might have been an act of creative genius that will let the show actually grow up. Now, I think the main switch up had to be Scorpius. As long as Crais was the villain, Farscape was a show about a chase. A great chase, granted, but still just a chase. Crais wanted Crichton dead for revenge. Scorpius, on the other hand, wants the wormhole knowledge in Crichton's head. This completely changes the game altogether. Crichton isn't just a fugitive anymore, he's a prize. Scorpius doesn't want to kill him, he needs him alive, which is way more terrifying. Scorpius is a different kind of bad guy, smarter, more patient, and way more crueler than Crais can ever be. He seems like, as a fan once put it, a wicked, uncultured, magnificent bastard. While Crais was all rage and brute force, for Scorpius to take his rightful place as the show's big bad, Crais had to get off the stage. They could have just killed him, but this just seems like it's much more interesting. They broke him and actually set him loose. I love that. I think that this does two incredibly important things for the story. First, it raises the stakes. The show has graduated from a simple revenge story to what feels like a galactic chess match over the ultimate weapon, wormholes. Second, and more importantly, it could allow Crais to become one of the most complex and unpredictable characters on the show. By cutting him off from the Peacekeepers and sticking him on Talon, the writers have turned him from a one-note villain into a total wildcard. For the rest of his time on the show, I imagine everyone, including the audience, is going to be constantly asking, can we trust this guy? My guess is that his redemption arc, if you can even call it that, is going to be a jagged line of self-interest, betrayal, and some moments of surprising honor. This entire incredible arc would have been impossible if he'd stayed the angry villain from Season 1. So maybe the ruin of his character as a simple bad guy was actually the birth of his character of a complex kind of anti-hero. And does it make sense for him? I think so. Crais was already a broken man. His entire identity was built on two things, being a peacekeeper, captain, and being a protective older brother. Crichton accidentally kind of destroyed one, and Scorpius deliberately destroyed the other. With nothing left, his desperate grab for Talon actually makes perfect psychological sense. He's not just trying to take a ship, he's taking back a sense of power, a command, a future. This is the ultimate defense of the writers in my mind. Farscape seems to be a show about identity. It's about a bunch of people torn from their old lives who have to figure out who they're actually going to be now. Aaron has to learn to be more than just a soldier. D'Argo has to learn to be more than just a warrior. And Crais' story could be the ultimate example of this theme. He's a man who has his entire identity stripped away and is forced to build a new one from the ashes. The 2-episode arc that kicks this off might be brutally fast, but it's also brutally effective. It's a painful, shocking, and necessary amputation that saves the character from getting stale and actually allows him to become something much more greater. So as someone who's watching this for the first time, did Farscape almost ruin Captain Crais in 2 seasons? Well, on one hand, I can kind of see why people might think so. The jump from the vengeful commander of Season 1 to the symbiotic captain of Talon is whiplash fast. It asked the audience to swallow a huge personality shift in a very short amount of time. And my initial reaction was that they just threw away a year of character building for a convenient plot twist. However, the more I think about it, it wasn't actually a ruin, it was a renovation. A messy, chaotic, lightning-fast renovation, but a necessary one. I'm starting to believe that the writers actually knew that Crais, as he was, had a shelf life. To let the show get bigger and better, the simple villain just had to go. And in his place, they might have given us something way more valuable. A complex, morally gray anti-hero whose unpredictable journey could become one of the best parts of the whole series. The speed of the change reflects the total desperation of a man who had lost everything. It wasn't just a fumble, it was a bold, deliberate choice to sacrifice a good villain to create a potentially great character. Where his journey goes from here is anyone's guess, but it feels like it all started right here. And honestly, this could be the reason why Farscape became such a success in the first place, by making bold decisions like this to allow the show grow up. But what do you think? Am I giving the writers too much credit based on just 2 episodes? Was the speedy arc a brilliant tragedy that will make the show deeper? Or was it a massive writing mistake that you just can't get over? Let me know in the comments below, and please no spoilers for what happens next, because I am very much looking forward to watching future episodes. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Rift of the Damned, Malice of Malgrath.